Hi, I'm Mark Kassa, and this is Welcome to the D, your one-stop music show highlighting the working men and women in the music biz, where we'll be showcasing all genres of music, from metal to world music, national artists to local musicians, and everything in between, all from our home base right here in Detroit. So sit back, relax, and welcome to the D.
Welcome to the D! Welcome to the D!
Country musician Harlan Howard, who was born in Detroit, once called country music three chords and the truth. In today's episode of Welcome to the D, we'll be interviewing TJ Thomas, who epitomizes that statement. TJ is a Nashville recording artist, singer, songwriter, and guitarist that has toured extensively through the United States and Canada and proudly represents a genre of music that has exploded in the last 10 years because of its real musicians and lyrics that touch the hearts of so many people. In the Prime Cut segment, we'll be reviewing the Johnny Cash album Ring of Fire, which produced the biggest hit of his storied musical career. And in the Man vs. Guitar segment, our guest TJ will be speaking about Taylor guitars, a #1 pick by many acoustic players. First up, our interview with TJ Thomas, a hard-working country musician who continues to epitomize all artists that remain dedicated to their craft, keeping the influence of legends like Merle Haggard alive while pushing ahead with his own original music.
Yeah, this first song was a song I wrote for my daughter called She Dreams of Horses. My little girl just came to me just the other day. Daddy, aren't you proud of me? I've been getting good grades. Tomorrow I turn 10 years old. There's one thing I'd like. Would you buy me a pony, one that I could ride? Stream of horses running wild and free like Spirit up on TV with her hair waving freely in the air. Without so much as a care, she dreamed of horses. My, how the years gone by, just a wink of an eye. From a baby girl, a little lady of the world. Tomorrow she'll graduate, she'll wanna spread her wings and fly. And I'll always remember my baby girl who dreamed of horses, running wild and free like Spirit up on TV with her hair waving freely in the air. Without so much as a care, she dreamed of horses. Well, I know someday some boy's gonna come along. I wanna take her by the hand, call her his own. Together they'll raise a family and build a home. And I'll always remember my baby girl. Today my baby girl just came to me and said, Grandpa, aren't you proud of me? Look at all these books I've read. Tomorrow I turn 10 years old. There's one thing I'd like. Would you buy me a pony, the one that I could ride? She dreamed of horses, running wild and free like Spirit up on TV with her hair waving freely in the air. Without so much as a care, she dreamed of horses. Thank you, thank you.
Please welcome to the show Nashville recording artist, singer-songwriter, TJ Thomas.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
TJ, great to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
All right, can you give us the musical history of TJ Thomas?
I started off when I was about 6 years old, playing with my grandpa. He used to play back in them days. They had radio shows that you did every week, and Grandpa, he played the harmonica, fiddle, guitar, banjo, and but every weekend they'd get together, him and my uncles, and play music, old country songs. I'd come there beating on a guitar, and finally said, "Listen, you want one, you want to play back here, you got to learn how to play it." So I took a week and learned how to play Red River Valley and sing it, and the blood's coming off my fingers from the steel strings. Anyway, I learned how to play the guitar. Then he gave me a guitar, and I went from there and continued to play different artists. You know, I grew up on Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, and I got into Little John Denver and Jim Croce, James Taylor, and then about that time I turned on to Merle Haggard, and then I was hooked. That was it. And from there, I hit about 13, started playing in some wedding bands around the local area, and then got into high school, and I picked up in a couple of different bands. I played in a wedding band. I'd play in the weekends down in Ohio. We did a lot of things. We opened up for, at that time, we opened up for the Oak Ridge Boys, who were big at the time. We worked with a couple of older artists, Billy Crash Craddock, some artists from back in the 60s, Melba Montgomery. And then I moved on from there, graduated high school, and ended up in Battle Creek playing in a house band. And then I joined up with a three-piece band. We had a girls singer, so actually four-piece. And they had, back in the 80s, they had a thing called Wrangler Jean Showdown. And you'd go out and you'd participate in these contests. And if you won, you got the chance to go to the Grand Ole Opry, and 52 different bands from 52 states would go. And if you won that, you would get a recording contract, and I think it was $100,000 at the time, and we lost. But and then from there, you know, it gradually went from there. I would learn from different folks. I hooked up with a steel guitar player out of Fremont, Ohio, by the name of Bernie Batruba, and he took me aside and taught me what he called the Nashville style of playing lead guitar. And it taught me how to play the rhythms, you know, with my fingers instead of just a flat pick. And he really got me into it. I was really into like Steve Wariner and Keith Whitley and Ricky Skaggs, that sound of the guitar. And then I ended up in Canada. I was in Canada for quite some time. I had probably 7, 8 years tour in Canada playing. I had a record deal out of Toronto. A company called Reba Records. I did that for a short time and then got off the road, and I've been back home since well, about the last 17 years, and playing, you know, fairs, festivals, and what have you. And so it's that's pretty much been the music thing. Along the way, I've had a chance to work with guys like David Frizzell. He had a song out in the 80s called "I'm Gonna Hire a Wino," and "You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma," which was Song of the Year. I've worked with Conway Twitty and his son Michael. You know, various different acts out there that I've had the privilege of working with and getting to know a lot of people that have made it. And I've enjoyed the music because I've gotten to meet people otherwise I would have never got a chance to meet. I was paid to go see places that most people got to pay to go see. And then some of the folks that I've met, David Frizzell was a hero of mine because of the way he sang. And so being able to play with some of those guys was fun. That's what it was all about for me.
Now, what is it that really attracted you to that country sound? I mean, was it a generational thing? Was it just something, just that music, you just feel it? Like I always say that, you know, as soon as I hear Hendrix, it's like my... You know,
it's funny because like I tell you, my grandpa was all old school country and bluegrass and gospel. Well, and as I was growing up, you know, my dad had me listening to Bob Dylan and Chris Christopherson, you know, and yay. And then, but the big deal, like I said, I got into John Denver, but once I heard that Merle Haggard sound, and there was a cry in his voice and the way he sang, and his songs were all stuff that I love. Songwriters that really write from the heart, because you can't make up stuff like Merle made up. I mean, he lived that stuff, and that's why a great song stands the test of time. And that's what turned me on, was his songs like Mama Tried and Today I Started Loving You Again. And I just got hooked into the tradition, you know. And here in the 80s, tradition country took off with Randy Travis, and Alabama bringing a little rock feel to it, groups like Exile. And I liked that. The older I started liking Skinner.
I was just going to say, you like the Southern rock bands.
Yeah, I like Skinner and ZZ Top, people like that. And to me, that was just, Skinner's songs were great songs, you know. And I like the feel to those songs. You know, you get a groove going on I Know a Little, or The Breeze has got a nice feel to it.
That's a great tune. Give Me Back My Bullets, all those tunes are great.
You know, and so I really started getting into that stuff the older I got. And then, you know, we have this thing, a new country coming up, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, that's Leonard Skinner. That's ZZ Top music, is what that is. But if I'm going to play, I just assume play ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner. And, but I've always been geared towards country. We had a tape out back in the 80s up in Canada, and somehow or other got into somebody's hands in Nashville, and it was in some magazine, and they were trying to decide whether I was a blues singer or a country singer. I can sing a hard rock and roll song. It's going to sound like a Merle Haggard song, because that's just all I know how to do, you know. And but I enjoy, the older I get, I enjoy all different types of music anymore, you know. And our live shows, you know, we do a tribute to Motown. I call it Redneck Motown. We do some, you know, quite a bit of rock and roll, the classic stuff, and some Southern rock. So we do a little bit of everything for everybody, and it seems to relate. Instead of just playing one type of music, today's music scene, you really got to be versatile. You got to be willing to play everything if you want to be successful entertaining people, you know.
Well, what do you think about how country has kind of morphed into like a pop culture now? But before it started a more traditional sound, and now it's kind of gone to like a pop culture thing. What do you think about the differences with the old country and new country?
You know, my dad used to tell me years ago that all things that are old are going to be new again. And I do believe there's a big push down there in Nashville now to get tradition back, because they've gone so far away from what's made country music country. Yeah, it's selling a lot. Certain artists are selling a bunch of CDs. And it's better. It's great because it's drawing more young kids to the clubs and wanting to hear country and to the concerts. But the young kids, I've noticed, if I call out and I pull a Johnny Cash song out, or George Jones or Merle Haggard, they're coming up on the dance floor and up by the stage and wanting more. And to me, it's a great thing. I mean, you got to have the versatility. I think country music sold itself out, is what I think it did. And
now you've opened for many national artists. I've been on the big stage with all of them. Is there any artist that you opened for that you couldn't believe you got, like you really wanted a gig because you looked up to that artist? I remember for me, the day I landed a gig with Robin Trower, like my guitar hero, and we were opening up for him, we wound up doing 5 shows, and it was like the biggest thrill of my life. Did you open any of those kind of shows?
Well, I tell you, I've opened up for quite a few Nashville acts and backed quite a few, but the man, when I got a chance to meet Merle Haggard, I never had a chance to open up for him. But always, whenever he was in town and I thought I might have a chance, I had to be out on the road playing somewhere. And, you know, the guys had to eat. We had bills to pay. So here a few years back, I went and saw him, and I took a buddy of mine. I said, oh, I'm meeting him tonight, one way or the other. And we show up, there's his bus. I walked on the bus. And you know how it is when you're a guitar hero, you're rock and roll country, if you're really a musician, you know who's in everybody's bands. And I seen the bus door cracked. I walked in, and here comes a steel guitar player, and he says, how you doing? I'm Norm Hamlin. I said, danged if you ain't, Norm. How you doing? I'm shaking his hand. They got me backstage to meet Merle, and I to this day, I feel it. I shook his hand, and I said, you know, I thanked him for all his years of music and what he done for, well, being a part of my life and my dad and my grandpa's life. And I told him, I said, you know, I could have a #1 hit right now. I could be playing the opera. It ain't gonna get no better than this moment right here, right now. Because you know, as you get older, it's not always about, you know, the money or, you know, how big a place is. You get a chance to meet your hero. That's
such a big deal.
Oh, it is. You know, I still go. I mean, when I go catch Merle in concert, I'm like a little baby there, you know, because he's singing a song and it brings, you know, music. It does so many. It plays on so many emotions. Rock and roll, man, it gets you pumped up, man. You want to jump on. When I was a kid, I'd hear the theme to Rocky, and I'm looking to hit somebody. But you know, I go hear a Merle song, and man, my just old teary-eyed right there, you know, because it just brought back. Every song brings back so many memories, you know. And,
now you've toured through the U.S. and through Canada. What's the difference in the crowds that you get in both, and where do you think country's bigger?
Canada, traditional country, still big. When I was playing out there, older artists like Kitty Wells, Gene Watson, any of the traditional artists would pack a club long before the upcomers would. At that time, I'll tell you, there was Vince Gill, Alan Jackson, Travis Tritt. Now, we all were playing the same clubs. I wasn't on no major label. I was on an independent label. These guys were signed. But they couldn't get a quarter of the place packed. Yeah, we would go and play because we were playing hardcore country. And mind you, Alan Jackson played it, but they didn't know who they were. We'd have a real good crowd, always had good turnouts. But I do believe up in Canada that they're more traditional country oriented. I was just recorded in Nashville this past summer, and they were telling me the farther north you get, the more traditional country fans you have, whereas the farther south, the more rock they want. Which I would have always thought, more south, they're going to want more country, and that's the complete opposite, you know. And but I would have to say, yeah, Canada, and specifically out in Manitoba and Alberta, Saskatchewan. I mean, there's some real cowboys out there.
Oh, well, they have the Calgary Stampede and all the other stuff going on.
Yep, and you know, and I loved the time I was out there playing. One, it's a beautiful country to see out there, but the people were just. We never played to a house that wasn't packed, and we did this. We would play 50 out of 52 weeks we were on the road, and we were playing 6 nights a week. Then on Saturdays afternoons, you played a matinee from 3 to 6, then 9 to 1. And so we played a lot of music, and we had a great time. There was some, in Canada, they've got some great musicians, some great artists. There was a steel player who worked with me by the name of Mike Holder, just phenomenal. I had another guitar player who would play with me. The drummer, the bass player, they all worked with like Tommy Hunter. They had the Tommy Hunter show out for years. They all did anything that was big in Canada. And when you played Toronto, you know, you played your 6 nights. Well, you played that matinee from 3 to 6, 9 to 1. Well, then we would always try to get in at least 3-4 times a year at a place called the Matador, which was an after-hours club. And you go and play there from 2 in the morning until 5 in the morning. So it was just all-day music. But everybody that was anybody in the music scene would show up, whether it was Katie Lang, Ann Murray's guys would come. Prairie Oyster was in there quite a bit. Jeff Healy, we got him up. I don't know how many different times I sat in with us.
He was a great guitar player.
Yeah, he's a great musician all the way around.
It's a shame he passed. You know?
Yeah, and he played the horns. I mean, for a while there, he had like a brass band going on, you know. Wow. And but I really liked my time up there, and it was fun. The people are really good, and but I'm finding now here in the States there's a resurgence of traditional country. People are wanting to hear that. I was just in Nashville about a month ago. Went to this club, and they had a band there called the Music City Cowboys, and the 4-piece, and about the best country band I'd ever heard. And that's all they played was. They probably had 5 Merle Haggard songs a set, so they had my attention. But they were doing that. They were doing Jerry Reed. They were doing Ricky Skaggs. I mean, anything country. Charlie Pride, Conway. And they were tearing it up. and the people were losing their minds, hooting and hollering. And so that's telling me I think I'm doing the right thing, but you got to stay true to who you are. And I can't go on rap, although we try to at night. So I stay, you know, country because that's what I am, you know.
And I spent quite a bit of time on the road, about 17 years, and wrote this song as a tribute to being out on the road and what musicians go through. It's called Chasing Rainbows. See, we spend most of our lives on the highway without any end, where a motel becomes your home and a stranger becomes your only friend. We make our living writing songs and singing them. Sometimes I wonder if we're chasing a rainbow with no gold at the end. 'Cause when the lights go off and it's time for us to just move along to another town, another club, another place to call a home away from home. Sometimes it gets lonely, we don't feel like going home. There's a hunger deep inside of us that keeps us moving on. Now we stop at a truck stop along Highway 75 to grab a cup of coffee, help keep our eyes open wide. We got miles of road to go before we reach the next show. Seems the back of this here bus the only life I'm ever gonna know. 'Cause when the lights go off and it's time for us to just move along to another town, another club, another place to call a home away from home. Sometimes it gets lonely, we don't feel like going on. There's a hunger deep inside of us that keeps us moving on. 'Cause when lights go off and it's time for us to just move along to another town, another club, another place to call a home away from home. Sometimes it gets lonely, we don't feel like going home. There's a hunger deep inside of me that keeps me moving on. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, this is TJ Thomas, and you're watching Welcome to the D.
I think with all the forms of music too, the people really like the traditional bands because those are all the real players. You're not hearing, there's nothing synthesized or overproduced or anything. I mean, when you hear the old 70s funk bands, I mean, those guys could play. The funk bands and really all the old genres, everybody was just real players. People are tired of hearing everything being processed and synthesized, and they hear you guys come out, you're organic musicians.
That's it, you know, and I think, you know, when you go out, you could sit there and get all that synthesized stuff just right and work on it for hours and hours and program it. You go out and you play dun 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 dun. The floor's going to fill up. You know, you play Brick House, once you hear that bass line to Brick House or Superstition, the dance floor's going to fill right up. So you play those songs. And if you turn around and do a slow song, whether it's a George Jones, a Haggard, or a Lionel Richie slow song, that dance floor is going to fill up. Well, one of those were really good songs. and they lasted forever. And kids were raised on that, so they heard it at mom and dad's. They heard it from their grandma and grandpa. So it's not like it's you hear this other stuff today, and it's just hard to hear anything new anymore, you know, from what I find. And I like when I hear something that sounds fresh, and it doesn't have to be traditional. A Blake Shelton. I think he's got a great sound. I think his songs are really good. Billy Currington's another one in country music. And Billy's got that bluesy sound to his voice, but awesome nonetheless, you know. And I just think there's just certain songs and certain singers who I think can stand the test of time, you know. Beatles, you can't beat the Beatles songs. Don't tell my bass player I said that.
It seems like, too, with like country music and classic rock,
yeah,
it's like family-oriented music. You're not hearing swearing and, you know, degradation of other people or anything like that. There's real players. I think that's why there's people turning more back to that now than ever.
Well, you know, it's the Rolling Stones and the Beatles were influenced by Buck Owens' sound, and they were influenced by Merle Haggard's the Bakersfield sound is what it was, with the bending of the guitars and the sounds that the telly was making. I was just today, before I came here, I was listening to Vince Gill, Crossroads TV show. Vince Gill and Sting were on it. And, you know, genre-wise, they're worlds apart. But once they sat down and started talking, they realized that we're really next-door neighbors in the music thing, you know. And they were, man, they sounded great together. I mean, the way they sang, and he did some of Sting's songs. Sting did Vince Gill songs. You really, unless you're really trying to pick it apart, it's hard to tell the difference, you know. And some of these, like that Lionel Richie CD that came out with the remake of his songs and the country artist on it, it sounded just as good as the old stuff, you know. I would have liked to heard Brick House with somebody with a real country voice. That would have been funny.
Well, think about it. I mean, a chord's a chord. If you're playing an A chord, it doesn't matter whether it's country, blues, rock, funk, whatever. It's still an A chord. It's just the little twist you put on it that gives that style.
Well, you know, and that's it. I think the blues music, I believe, and country music are brother sister of one another, you know. The blues artists are influenced by some of the country players. Country players are influenced by blues artists all the time. I mean, Ray Charles takes and does a tribute to Hank Williams Sr. and sells 1 million records of that. I had a chance to work with Ray Charles in Flint, Michigan years ago, and he came out and he did 2 or 3 of the Hank songs that he had done. You're Cheating Heart, and I can't remember, I think I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Man, you sit back and you listen to that, and the soulfulness that comes out of his voice. And, you know, whether it's rock, country, bluegrass, gospel, you got to appreciate good musicians, good singers, good songwriters, you know. And some of the best we'll never hear for whatever reason. They'll go undiscovered, which is great for shows like you, because you take somebody like me, and which I really do appreciate.
Well, I mean, you're one of the people that make the music biz. These big guys and stuff don't exist without the hardworking guys that do it every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, I'll tell you a great Ray Charles story. I knew one of the drummer's name's Tim Polk. He played for Ray Charles for a while. He was telling us a story that it's funny. Ray Charles hired a band and they were all like strict Christians, and so they were sitting around taking a break, and Ray Charles goes, "Get up and give me a beer," and nobody moved, and they all sat there, and he goes, "I knew I shouldn't have hired a bunch of damn choir boys."
Yeah, well, when we were in Flint, the funniest thing was I sit there and I'm listening to him, and there's a band playing off because it's a fair, and you could hear him, just vaguely you could hear him, but he must have had ears like you wouldn't believe. He stopped in the middle of Georgia, and he says, "Do you want to hear that, or do you want to hear me? If that doesn't turn off, I'm done playing." And well, that band had an early night, right? Then they start playing. He takes his monitor and he kicks it. He says, "It's a slow song. This ain't a fast song. I can't hear a thing," you know. And but I loved it. You know, I'll tell you, one of the most professional guys I ever worked with was a fellow by the name of Tom T. Hall, who written, I mean, a lot of big-time country hits back in the 70s and 80s. And he had showed up. He had a bleeding ulcer when he came in. It was a blizzard snowstorm in Sandusky, Ohio, and there was a gal named oh shoot, if I could remember her name offhand, Charlie McLean, and she had one hit. And now this is, to me, the difference between the pros and the wannabes. Charlie McLean, there wasn't a lot of people out there, maybe 600 people. The snowstorm came in. She goes out and does her first set. Tom T comes out and just rips it up. He's got a 10-piece band, you know, and she tells the promoter of the show, if we ain't got cash, I'm not going on for the second show. And so we had to tear down the PA and bring Tom T. Hall's PA system in off his bus, because Tom T. Hall said, well, these people paid to see us. They deserve a show. And Tom T. Hall went out and gave his shows if there was 10,000 people out there. And after that, I was a big Tom T. Hall fan, because this, to me, whether there's one person or whether there's 10,000 people out there, you still got to go out and entertain and give them the same show that you would if there was 10,000. And I'll tell you a quick one. So we're in this place. We just got done playing the night before to about 4,000 people at a festival. The next night we show up at this club, and you know, we got all this momentum going, and there's one person in there. So I said, listen, buddy, even though there's only one of you, I said, we're going to give this show as if there's 5,000, 6,000 people, because you're important, and that's how we feel about it. And he yelled up, I wish you'd hurry up, because I got to clean this place when you're done. But anyway, but I think, too, that it's important to pay respect to the guys that were before you, because they've paved a lot of roads. You know, Skinner had done so much for Southern rock. The Eagles did so much. And looking back, in today's music, if Leonard Skinner and the Eagles were to come out today, would they be rock and roll? I think they'd be more country.
Country, yeah.
You know, and you can't beat the Eagles' harmonies, you know. You know, a lot of guys say, let's get together and make a band. What's a lot more than just being a flashy guitar player. It's a lot more than just being an incredible singer. A lot of it's your mindset. It takes more than just the tools to be a good musician. You know, it takes, I've always said, you can take 5 of the greatest musicians in the world, put them on stage, and if they all got egos and they don't work together, it ain't going to sound all that great. Where you can take 5 good musicians, and they're all coming for one good sound, and it's going to blow your mind.
I totally agree. You work as a team. A band is a total team effort.
Yep. You know, there was a period of time I went down to Nashville, and we met up this producer, and you know, and he come out and said, well, you know, back when the cassette tapes were big, and he wasn't even listening to nothing. And he says, okay, how much money you got? And I said, what are we talking? And he said, well, $500,000, you'll be the next Randy Travis. I said, oh, man. I said, well, 150 get me. And he said, Dwight Yoakam. So I looked at my manager then, and I said, Dwight, 150? I ain't got that neither, so let's just go back to Canada. We go back, and like I said, this guy hadn't even listened to the songs. I said, well, you don't even know if I can sing or not. He said, oh, you got the talent. I ain't worried about it. So I go back and to Canada, and we said, well, we're going to stay out on the road for 5 more years, and we're going to sell X amount of tapes. And that guy said he'd meet us dollar for dollar. So I spent 5 years nonstop, and you know, being on the road, it takes time. If you're married, it takes time away from your marriage, from your kids, and unfortunately, a lot of marriages go by the wayside because of that. But 5 years, and I'd sold all the tapes I needed to sell, and I knew I had the exact money I needed. The manager that I'd had took all that money and spent it foolishly. So it puts some of this stuff, if you're really not careful, the industry side of it really is what gets on my nerve, the business side.
I say it all the time, musicians, there's that wake-up day where you say, first when you're growing up, you think everything's all idealistic. I'm going to play this music, people love it, I'll make money. Then you get out there and find out the dirty side of the business, and it's so discouraging.
You know, and it is, and but you know, I've picked up my new manager in this last year. Dave and I have been working together for a year, and we've done a lot in this last year. And you know, and I'm just hoping we do more. But the worst case scenario, we're friends, you know. But I have come to terms with, you know, 50 years old. I'm just excited somebody wants to pay to hear me sing anymore, you know, and that I can still go out and do it. And we're having fun. I mean, when you stop having fun, it's time to get out of it, you know. And I don't want to hate the thing that I loved all my life, you know, and that's helped make me make a living. And you know, we all hope, if you're a songwriter, you hope one day maybe your song will be heard and somebody will record it. But you know, at the same time, as long as you're going out and people are liking you and you're doing what you like to do, man, do it till you can't do it anymore, you know.
I totally agree.
I'm figuring my next stop is Seniors Tour. I'll be playing all the senior homes in Florida.
I got a question on the lyrics. I notice in rock music, let's say you listen to Rush or whatever, they'll play songs like The Trees, let's say, that's like a backhanded shot towards socialism, or you know, they have different meanings in the lyrics. But I notice country players are very specific. They tell you what street, what girl, what truck. Why is that? I've always wanted to ask.
Country music is real music. I mean, they're not making up nothing. I mean, when you go after, you hear country songs that attack maybe the way things are going on the political side of life, you know, whether it's a Toby Keith song, you know, with the Angry American, or back in the day when Merle Haggard did Okie from Muskogee, and he was running down, you know, hippies and smoking dope and all that. That was considered voodoo back then. And but you know, what's one of the things I really like about country. If you think you're having a bad time, listen to a good old country song and you'll feel real good about yourself in about 5 minutes. Or you'll feel just the opposite. But you know, there's some songs. Darryl Worley had one called "Have You Forgotten," and it was about the events of 9/11. And when you listen to that, you know, it's still, even today when you listen to it, it just takes you back in time to that day. And that's the thing I like about music, period, but country songs in specific, because it just seems like I like the, not so much the lovey-dovey ballads, but I like a good story, and that's what country music is. And when you're writing about stuff that you really know about and that you lived, it's hard to beat that. I mean, I can't go write about, you know.
And I think, too, it creates a scene in your head, which is kind of nice, too. You kind of get the whole picture. It's like,
yeah, you want to
like
paint,
you're reading a good book.
Yeah, exactly. You want to paint that story, and you got 3 minutes to do it. And there are some songs that, you know, oh, what's that song by Louis Armstrong?
A Wonderful World?
Wonderful World. I mean, anytime you go to an anniversary, or there's a wedding reception or something, you'll hear that song being played time and time again by a DJ. That song has withstood how many years has that song been out? Forever. And there are just certain songs. It goes back to, like I said, if, you know, if I want to dance, I want a song with a good beat, you know. Well, I'm putting on the Commodores or Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, because that's got the beat to it. But for me, the kind of guy, I mean, there's some great songwriters. I'm Skip Ewing, and who is an awesome guitar player. He's an awesome singer. Steve Warner, people like that. But some of these songs, some of the songs that are on their CDs that never make it to radio are better than the songs that make it to the radio. But there's like too much. It's not commercial enough for radio. But man, you listen to the stories. Years ago, Joe Diffie had a song called "Ships That Don't Come In." It's all about a drunk and losing his way. And it should have been Song of the Year. "Achy Breaky Heart," really? That's Song of the Year? That's what you got? "Achy Breaky"?
Oh, it's pop culture, so.
Exactly, you know. And that was a song that didn't make it. The first time someone went to record it, they said, well, that's a terrible song. What was terrible first time? It was terrible second time. Nonetheless, it became a hit second time. And, but, I don't know. The country music and the stories that they tell And that's what I get lost up in, you know. And you know, I listen to. I read a lot on Merle Haggard, because we're going to be putting a Merle Haggard tribute band together, and you know, these songs. He's got a song called "Sing Me Back Home." Well, a story he did. You know, Hag was in prison for 3 years in San Quentin. Well, his cellmate at the time found a way that he was going to break out of San Quentin. Merle says, "I want to go." And he said, no. He said, "You got too much talent. You know, I got a good feeling about you." This guy breaks out of prison, steals a police car, and it becomes a shootout. And he's killed. But as he's laying there, the one thing he said to the policeman just before he died, he says, "I want my friend to sing my last request." Well, Merle Haggard put that in. The whole story was made into the song, and it became one of his biggest songs, you know. And we go down to a club in Terre Haute, Indiana, and the first time we pulled that song out, and I'm looking out in the audience, and everybody is singing that thing note for note, word for word, you know. And I see people up there. There was an old Grand Ole Opry act, Dale Reeves, and I had the privilege of working a couple shows with Dale, and him and I got to talking, and he says, "T, you know you got a hit song, or a good song, if you got a hook line that they'll keep repeating, like Always on My Mind or Pretty Woman, or if you make them get up and dance, or if you make them cry. One of those three things, and you've got a hit song." And I always kept that in mind whenever I write, and you know, when I write, it's more country, hardcore country, bluegrass, maybe a little edge to that, towards even a gospel feel to some of the songs that I write that are country, which a lot of country music has got that gospel feel to it. And I always try to tell a story. I can only write about what I know about, you know, and it's usually about divorces.
Now, you record a lot, and you record in Nashville and Detroit. It just seems like Nashville is such a hotbed. What is it that's so different about Nashville that's so special that everyone's gravitating towards there?
The mix. Well, we got great musicians up here who can go in there and pull it off on the first take. But it's just that mix that they've got down there, and it's just the touch that they have. But you know, Nashville's also rock and roll recording capital too. There's a lot of rock that gets recorded down there in Nashville. And today, I think in today's country music, these pickers are so versatile down there. You know, Brent Mason is just, I mean, he's just a monster on it. Plays whatever you want, whenever you want it, you know. The guys I used, you get a little camaraderie going when you get to know some of these guys in the studio. If they like you and you like them, it just makes things go smoother. And that's what I found when I was there. And that, me going down to record, I wanted to sound like it's something that you would hear on the radio. Well, they're not pumping a lot of country music out of Detroit. They're pumping it out of Nashville. So you go. If I was going to record a rock album or a Motown album, I'd probably do it here. And but for right now, I will probably continue to do the Nashville. I mean, there's a reason why people migrate down there and play Broadway straight down in Nashville for tips. You know, everybody thinks they're going to be the next thing. But if you stand a chance of doing anything, you got to go where it's happening. And that's where they're pumping country music out of. And so for me, and the other thing is I like the old school stuff down there too. I mean, I want to go down, and I like seeing the old Opry, going by the Rhineman. I like going by Tootsie's. I like going out. I love going out to the Ernest Tubb record shop. When I was a young fella, 18, they used to have a club out here in Canton called Lucille's. And if you didn't get in there by 9 o'clock at night, you just didn't get a seat. And I would go in there, and they had a guitar player, two guitar players there, Tommy Buck, Steve McCain, and Jack Milletti. Jack Milletti played for Barbara Mandrell. He was her band leader, played on her first 7 #1 hits. He was with Loretta Lynn, Ernest Tubb. And when I go down to Ernest Tubb record shop, I see Jack's belt buckle in the gallery. But those guys were so good back then. I always said that was the best country band in the area that never made it. But they were so cool. They let me get up and play, and they didn't have to. And just as nice as it could be, and a guitar player would show me something, because both of them were monster guitar players. And but that was that's one of the reasons why I like going down to Nashville. It's just the tradition.
TJ, thanks again for coming on the
Mark,
show.
thanks for
great having
me.
you, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Once again, that's TJ Thomas.
This other song I wrote back in about 20 years ago, and we got on a CD we did last summer, and it's called Forever in Your Eyes. There's a full moon out tonight, and the stars are shining so bright, I can see forever in your eyes. Hey, the stars are putting on a show, while the heart's so aglow, I can see forever in your eyes. I could see forever in your eyes, and your body makes me paralyzed. Things that you say, the things that you do, makes me see forever in your eyes. Now there's a fire burning so bright, keeping a swarm on a cool summer night. With your body next to mine, I've never felt so right. I'll awake in the morning light, with my arms around you so tight, I could see forever in your eyes. I could see forever in your eyes, and your body, it makes me paralyzed. Things that you say, the things that you do, makes me see forever in your eyes. Oh, when tomorrow morning comes, I'll be there to greet you like a morning sun. With each passing day, our hearts will come together. Know this love of ours, it can last forever. I could see forever in your eyes, and your body, it makes me paralyzed. Things that you say, the things that you do, it makes me see forever. Oh, I could see forever in your eyes, and your body, it makes me paralyzed. Things that you say, the things that you do, makes me see forever in your eyes. Thank you again. Thank you. Hi, I'm President Obama. No, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I'm TJ Thomas, and you're watching Man vs. Guitar. Well, one of the reasons I like the Taylor guitars, easy to play. The next then, I've had problems with my hands for a long time going numb. This seems to do the trick over the Gibsons and the Martin guitars. The neck's just a little thinner. The sound I find really clear, especially when you're playing, doing a two-piece or a single, coming through the PA. It's got a beautiful sound. Barely ever, I mean, it never goes out of tune. It's great. Because I'm lazy and I don't like to tune it. But if you get a chance, check out a Taylor guitar if you haven't. It's an awesome guitar. You can't go wrong. for the slow stuff and for a little country stuff. And if you like the bluegrass sound, so it's really a versatile acoustic. If you get a chance, like I say, check one out. I don't think you're going to go wrong. With the neck being as thin as it is, it's easy to play. Basically plays itself. So check a Taylor guitar out.
In today's Prime Cut segment, we're featuring the Johnny Cash album Ring of Fire, the best of Johnny Cash. In 1963, Johnny Cash released the Ring of Fire album that was a collection of his singles and EP releases. It was the first #1 album when Billboard debuted their country album chart on January 11, 1964. The song Ring of Fire made his first LP appearance there. Johnny Cash had songs on the album like I'd Still Be There, What Do I Care, I Still Miss Someone, 40 Shades of Green, The Rebel, and others. But the ominous love song Ring of Fire stands head and shoulders above the rest. The song was actually written by June Carter Cash and Merle Kilgore and released by Anita Carter. But Johnny vowed that if the song didn't hit the charts hard within 6 months, he was going to record it the way he felt it and release it himself. Sure enough, the song didn't launch for Anita, so he released it on his own terms. One of the things that made the song so unique was the combination of Johnny's baritone vocals along with the mariachi horns, which he said he got the idea for in a dream, that are so prevalent in the song. It was a blend of country and spoken word with a Mexican flavor. Not many thought that sounded like a winning combination, but Johnny was a visionary and really took the song outside the box, which gave it such character that it couldn't miss. Ring of Fire turned out to be the biggest hit of Johnny's storied career, staying at #1 on the charts for 7 weeks. Once again, that's the Johnny Cash album, Ring of Fire. That wraps up this episode of Welcome to the D. Once again, we'd like to thank TJ Thomas for taking the time out to visit us in the studio. If you enjoyed the show and would like to sponsor a segment or advertise with us, or have us demo your guitar product, you can contact me directly at mark@slightreturn.com. Once again, I'm Mark Kassa, and thanks for watching Welcome to the D.
From D-Town to your town, we're coming your way. When you see the D fly, you better cheer the brave. Welcome to the king that's crowned. We're from Detroit City, we're the best around.